I wouldn't go forward with it. That was the reason I started out by saying that I'm not trying to ram anything down anybody's throat. I just wanted to hold it in committee.
And we
to
will,
give an
Senator.
opportunity to talk. And so that's still what I like to do. And I can assure everybody that we're here to solve the problem. And we have provided solutions and suggestions, but we're limited on what we can do because we are the minority party.
Thank you, Senator. I want to thank everybody for being listening and being here and listening. I want to thank the members for their strongly held feelings, and I want to thank Senator Dutton for presenting what school districts believe need to be done. We are in a financial crisis. We need to solve that crisis first. Thank you. With that, let's move on to the next. Well, let's see. Are there any other members not on the committee? Senator Huff. Senator Huff, you have a quick bill. Is that it?
Yes, that's another. It should be
just
a little
another short bill. Well, just take a deep breath. They're already lining up, and so.
Yes, and I would encourage everybody to take a deep breath.
I would too. Everybody take a deep breath. You're being great. You are privileged, and we are privileged to have you. You are privileged to be hearing the critical debate that is going on in the California State Legislature. It is happening right here in this committee, and people, what you're hearing are the strongly held feelings of both the community, those that are most affected, and the legislators. With that, Senator Huff, welcome.
And I would encourage everybody to set their little internal clocks, reset it to 0, and we'll start with fresh testimony here.
Well, they were already lining up, so I don't know about that.
Well, that's all right. They're in support.
Right.
You know, if I were to poll everyone in the room, I'm sure everybody would say we want education to be excellent. We want the quality of our education in California to exceed that of anywhere else. That's actually what the heart of this bill is about. The citizens spoke through that sometimes flawed initiative process with Proposition 98 as a way to put a number on a floor of what we wanted to spend on K-14 education. So we have seen our funding come up. It may not be as stable as we would like, but it has been suspended only a few times. And even with that, we're at a much higher level than we were before. But even with this continued growth in education funding, our school performance has been flat. You have to ask yourself, why is that? We keep wanting to fund education more. We talk about that a lot, fully funding education. And as we do that, as we continue to put more money into education, performance stays flat. Now, we actually have a little bit higher uptick in some 4th grade math. That's excellent. But when you look at it in the context of the amount of money going in education, it's still relatively flat. If we want a quality education, we have got to change the way we think about teachers. Every one of us remembers in our childhood excellent teachers, and remember the duds. We all do. Every teacher knows there is a difference between those teachers that excel, to whom they want to take some of their methodology because they know they're connecting with the kids, and they also know the ones that couldn't teach their way out of a paper bag. But they draw the same salary, and the system doesn't teach them any differently. SB 355 proposes a simple but impactful idea. Allow school districts to use job performance as a factor, not the factor, but a factor when making layoffs or reassignments. Allow school districts to keep their best teachers and not be forced to protect, as they are now, ineffective teachers. This shouldn't be controversial. And by the way, outside of the budget issue, and I know that dominates everything. We got off onto that on the last issue, but even without the budget issue, half of our school districts are in declining enrollment. Sometimes layoffs have to be made irrespective of the budget. It just has to do with you can't continue to support the same amount of teachers, and tough decisions have to be made. Doesn't it make sense that we keep the teachers that are most effective, that we acknowledge what we all know to be true? Some teachers are more effective, and we have a process in place where we can reward excellence and we can help the system become better. That's what SB 355 does. It is permissive. If schools favor the status quo, they can continue that policy. If they believe performance should be a factor in layoffs, then they have the opportunity with this bill. SB 355 is subject to collective bargaining. I'm sure that's important to everybody in this room. It does not mandate. Local unions will still have a vote in this process. SB 355 does not jettison seniority. Even if a school district decides to appeal to this new law, seniority is a factor in a holistic approach to how you decide which teachers you want to hang on to. By the way, because it is permissive, it's why I don't have a lot of support from educational reform groups, Democrat-run education reform groups. They feel my bill is too weak. Many in this room think it's too strong. That's the nature of the political process, trying to find that medium ground that gets us to where we need to go. SB 355 is supported by California's business community because quality education and human capital is directly linked to a quality workforce and economy. It's supported by civil rights groups because education is a right afforded by the state constitution and is not being delivered equally to every child in California. It's supported by the education community because there are people who see the effects of the last in, first out policy and what it does to children. It's supported by parent groups because parents, simply put, are fed up with a LIFO policy. It's supported by Republicans and Democrats across the state, including Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. While union leadership won't be here in support today, or at least probably not lining up here in support today, when surveyed, teachers themselves show very strong support for reforming the seniority policy. 75%, incidentally, of urban teachers support reforming this LIFO policy that we have now. If you look at just a few clips of what newspapers have said, LA Times hit some of our members here. We support job protections for teachers, but these union-backed rules go over the line. Sacramento Bee, facing layoffs, doesn't everyone want to avoid losing high-quality teachers? If so, then change state law so we don't lose the best and brightest of the up-and-coming generation. San Diego Union Tribune, Mr. Vargas, it shouldn't automatically come down to seniority. Performance, enthusiasm, creativity, and energy all have to account for something. Long Beach Press-Telegram. The qualities that make a good teacher differ from person to person and cannot be summed up in a sentence or two. For that reason, no one element should be the deciding factor in which teachers are laid out and which are retained. What my bill simply does is allows local school districts to decide how they want to come to this multiple measures approach to evaluation. It's simple, it's permissive, it allows innovation, and I believe that after a few years, we will find some of the best practices. And because of that, we may want to adopt more of a state model, but this is very permissive, it's very flexible, it allows collective bargaining. I believe this will move the ball forward. It's not what everybody would like in reform, but this is something that Democrats and Republicans support. And I hope I can count on the support of this committee, too. I ask for your aye vote.
Witnesses in support.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senators. I'm delighted to be here this morning. I am here representing Democrats for Education Reform, a national organization. My name is Richard Polanco, a former member of this distinguished body.
Welcome, Senator, back.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to see you, Senator.
Our state director is also a former member, Gloria Romero, who chaired this policy committee for several years. Senators, it is clear that education is the civil rights issue of our time. Education is the civil rights issue of our time. It is enshrined in our Constitution that students have a right to a quality education. It is also a right that affords in our Constitution and is supposed to be the great equalizer. Critical to this right is access to top quality teachers. Unfortunately, too often teachers with least seniority are assigned to schools where the academic needs is greatest. The achievement gap continues to plague not just the state of California, but our nation. And based on results, too many students of color are being lost to an education system that is failing. Based on results, we need to change the policy and the laws that disproportionately continue to adversely impact poor, urban, rural students of color, especially African Americans, Latinos, and English language learners. Without a doubt, access to a quality of education and teacher is the civil rights issue of our time. Latino students face persistent obstacles in obtaining their educational objectives. The historic lawsuit filed by the ACLU in Los Angeles underscores the need to change Life Code law in order to equitably serve students of color. Teachers are the most important resource for a child's education. Teachers make all the difference for students, both positively and negatively. We know that from our own experience. Under current law, layoffs and reassignments occur strictly on the basis of seniority. This is wrong and counterproductive. It is wrong because there is no evaluation made on the teacher's performance or effectiveness at that school. It is wrong because too often the best qualified teachers who have the least seniority are the last in and the first out, creating a disservice for the students at that school. Latino students are by far the largest minority, numbering more than 12.4 million in our country, in our elementary, middle, and high school. SB 355 addresses an element of our educational system that is, quite frankly, outrageous and must change. This measure will allow schools to keep and assign the best teacher for the benefit of students. It will bring closure to the blind approach of rewarding and protecting ineffective teachers based on seniority. The time is now to end the policy and laws that deprive students of having great teachers because those great teachers lack seniority. SB 355 begins to correct the historic disproportionment, the unjust adverse impacts the current law has bestowed upon the thousands of students of color, especially African American, Latino, and English learners. It is time to create a new chapter in California's educational system. We ask for an aye vote on this very modest measure that protects collective bargaining and creates choice at the local level.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Good morning. My name is Frank Porter. I'm the superintendent of Twin Rivers Unified. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the School Employers Association of California. SEAC, if you don't know, is a statewide association of 150 districts and superintendents. We share best practices and research issues and provide advice and cost-effective assistance to school districts around to improve collective bargaining. We work closely and collaboratively with other labor and management groups. Particularly, we worked in the area of employee health benefits to try and reduce those costs. SEAC has evaluated this bill, and we have taken a support position on SB 355. I was asked to come today on behalf of SEAC's board and testify. In my 10 years of experience as a teacher, my 14 years of experience as a site principal, and for the past 12 years, nearly 12 years as a superintendent, I've been blessed to work with literally hundreds of highly qualified and effective teachers and school site principals. And like effective students, highly effective teachers and school site administrators are continuously reflecting on, analyzing, and self-evaluating their performance according to clear standards and measures of performance. Fair, valid, and balanced teacher evaluation and feedback systems that provide high-value, ongoing feedback for teachers and school site principals are critically important to making sure that every child in every classroom has a highly effective, dedicated teacher and school site principal. School sites, as you know, throughout the state have developed evaluation systems based on the STEL Act, which has been around for a long time, and generally aligned them with the California standards for the teaching profession and the California leadership standards for principals. These systems need to be strengthened and then to be utilized in decisions about teacher promotion, retention, and assignments. SB 355's provisions would refocus efforts of local bargaining teams and management staff on the important work of creating fair, balanced, and multiple measure teacher evaluation systems throughout the state, and would move us in the direction of ensuring highly effective teachers and principals are in every classroom, in every school throughout the state. The current last-in, first-out system of reducing teacher staffing is resulting in districts being forced to do some very absurd things. And just some examples in my own experience as a superintendent include recently, last year I was forced to issue, again, seniority-driven layoffs to our Teacher of the Year candidate. We then had to, at the same time, he had been nominated as our internal district teacher of the year. Fortunately, we were able to rescind the notification later on. He went on to become the California Teacher of the Year. Another example, we've been forced, because of the last-in, first-out system, to issue layoff notices to second, third, and fourth-year teachers who we had recruited specifically and trained and were teaching in our new Career Pathway linked learning programs, which are a fundamental core reform strategy that we have in place in our district and many districts throughout the state. And that undermined that training, undermined the momentum, undermined the development of those highly effective, proven, research-based programs, proven to get results to accelerate achievement for all students. Being forced by last-in, first-out requirements at some school sites, I've had some school sites, again, as was mentioned by the previous testimony, where we've had to issue layoffs to 30 to 40 to 50% of the staff at a particular school. And many times these are struggling schools who we brought in new principals and new teachers, trained them, and they're in the middle of transforming the school, and then I'm issuing layoff notices to them and unraveling the work that those teachers and principals have put into turning that school around because of seniority rules. And that simply doesn't make sense. That simply has to be changed. SB 355 will allow school districts to reward performance by using multiple measures outside of seniority in the teacher retention and layoff process. By giving school districts the opportunity to use job performance measures in conjunction with seniority, SB 355 strikes a well-measured balance between protections for children and teachers. SEAC, again, urges your support for SB 355.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senators. Oh, it's good afternoon. Sorry. Okay.
Hopefully no one will be saying good evening. Go on.
My name is Elias Chamorro, and I'm an educator for 34 years. I was a teacher, coach, assistant principal in two high school in a district, director in charge of discipline, attendance, independent study program, and athletics in San Jose, California, at two large high schools, and of course in the second largest school district in the state of California, from grades 9 to 12, Eastside Union High School District. I am presently teaching part-time for Foothill College and served in the athletic eligibility hearing panels for the California Interscholastic Federation. As someone who has worked in the public education system in many different capacities and in responsibilities for 34 years, I can tell you firsthand that policies like last in, first out are harmful to students. There is nothing more critical to a student education than putting an effective teacher in front of the classroom. Likewise, there's nothing more detrimental to the student's education than putting an effective teacher in front of the classroom. And I'm sure that we have heard of some of those. Prohibiting schools from making staffing decisions outside of the seniority forces schools to put ineffective teachers in the classroom. We put our children in the hands of teachers who we count to be effective in the children's future is the teachers in the teachers' hands. how would you like to put your life on the hands of an ineffective pilot? And you don't have to answer that. The only difference is that you have a choice on that decision. While our children do not have any choice on the teachers, on the effectiveness of the teachers who they're going to have them as a teacher, and the administrators have their hands tied on that decision as well. If we want to fix the achievement gap, we have to allow schools to keep their best teachers. We need to not only not only keep the best teachers, but our students, but we need to attract talented, dynamic teachers to our profession and then keep them. Giving school districts the flexibility is something you can do to make great improvements in education without spending a dime. We need to stop wasting approximately $200,000 to $300,000 negative energy and time whenever we have to deal with an ineffective teacher. You cannot imagine the hours of distress and frustration that I personally consume in trying to keep outstanding teachers, and after all that, I had no other alternative but to let them go. Instead, we should be using those resources to develop ways to keep those teachers that will make a difference in the lives of our students. Believe me, I do not think that there is one single public school district or school in California that is not struggling with this devastating dilemma. There must be a sense of urgency with this kind of education reform. Students cannot wait. Please support this legislation. I want to thank you for giving me the time to express this very serious concern on behalf of our profession and, most importantly, on behalf of the future of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Yes, my name is David Page. I'm a parent of 6 children who have been in the education system for the last 25 years, since 1986. So I come here with experience as a parent with contact with hundreds of teachers to know the difference. I am thankful that there's a community that's committed to education and hopefully the student first decision-making process. But I would suggest that money has been thrown at education for a long time, and this is one of the last bastions that has not been explored to correct a deficiency in educating a student. I have 5 points that I'd like to make. First of all,
very quickly.
As a parent, I notice that I'm in a classroom situation about 20 to 1. The 1 is surrounding me, so I'm a fish out of water, but I represent the other 20 to 30 as a parent of students. The underperforming teachers hurt the student by wasting a year of instruction that is foundational to the next year. The next teacher must now spend the next year catching the student up and keeping pace with the education of that current year. This is a disadvantage to the receiving teacher. This would be helpful to the receiving teachers in the state of California. If you need any anecdotal evidence, I've got 25 years of it. The second point I'd like to make is that underperforming teachers are found at all levels of the step-in column, and not all teachers belong in all school demographics. If anybody that has a hairdresser or barber knows that they're all state certificated, but that does not mean they're equal. Is that correct? And we spend more time evaluating our mechanics and our hairdressers than we do allowing students to have choice of educators. And we spend more time ignoring that issue. I'm asking that we have that opportunity. But to a particular, my daughter's high school she's currently in right now, that particular school is a digital media and design focus, which means we have a lot of young teachers that are very technically savvy that have brought this school to receive national recognition for 2 years in a row. And yet with the idea of the teachers being pink slipped and then the transition of bumping, we are going to lose that ability to focus and receive those accolades from the federal and state government because there's no expectation of the incoming teachers to have that same level of understanding.
I'd like you to try to conclude. The reason is that we have to conclude in this room by 1 o'clock because there's another committee. There's a lot of people out there. You will lose members, you know. I like to have 3 or 4 on each side, give extensive. I think it's fine. But from now on, keep it very brief. And I'm talking for both the opposition and the support on the bill. This is equal opportunity. Don't lose the committee.
Two small points. The underperforming schools are typically filled with the newer teachers. That transition causes a problem for principals trying to keep an informed staff. The other piece of this is that the legislation that's before us now will not write union contracts. It'll only give the opportunity for school districts to offer certain school sites the same benefits offered by charter schools, where you can hold on to your staff in the manner you'd like to as an administrator and increase parent or student education.
Thank you so much. Other witnesses in support?
Dave Walrath, representing Small School Districts Association, in support.
Thank you, Dave. That was a very good presentation. Other witnesses in support?
My name is Sue Caro, and I am just a concerned citizen, but also a former financial manager for an independent school, where I saw a completely different model at work year in and year out that was very effective. In independent schools all across the state and the country, there are annual renewable contracts with every teacher in the school, and the principal or head of school every year evaluates the teachers, plugs the holes where he needs or she needs to plug a hole for whatever the need is at the school at that time. Maximum flexibility. There is no general moving away or removing of senior teachers. There's also an influx of young teachers coming out of colleges or whatever with fresh technologies and enthusiasm, and the mix between the young teachers and the old teachers is vibrant at the school and helpful for both ends of the seniority spectrum.
You're in support.
I'm in support.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Mike Kilborn, representing the Orange County Department of Education. We are in support.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Thank you. Mira Girton with the California Chamber of Commerce, also in support.
Thank you.
Elliot Duchan, representing Riverside School Superintendents Association. I do want to point out one issue. Often your low seniority teachers are teachers that have been recruited specifically for a purpose, such as band, music, or to work in an underperforming schools. And they may have 20 years of teaching experience, but only 2 years in your district. Seniority is blind to that. So we applaud anything that gives us flexibility, not only on the budget, but bringing underperforming schools up to speed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Edgar Seswet on behalf of Los Angeles Unified School District. We have a support with amendments, and let me just explain that very quickly. The only piece we can't support right now is the stipulation that we use 30%, at least 30%
for pupils, student performance to count towards.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the issues we're trying to negotiate locally with our bargaining units. Aside from that, our superintendent and board as a whole are big critics of the quality blind system of personnel decisions, and we don't think it's in the best interest of students.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Sylvia Solisha on behalf of City of Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. The mayor has a support with amendments position on this bill. The mayor believes that changing the way we identify, support, and ultimately make staffing decisions will help turn around our struggling schools. The amendments are the same as the ones reiterated by Mr. Seswet on behalf of LA Unified.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Nancy Lacoste representing Clovis Unified School District.
You commit to being the last?
Support. Well, I don't see anybody behind.
All right, then. Thank you. Witnesses in opposition. The first 3 or 4 witnesses, you have an opportunity to present extensively, or at least what you want. After that, we'd like to do, just as we did for the witnesses in support, your name, and maybe it'll be a lot easier, there's so many of you, not to have to sit down just after we go through that, to come up and just introduce yourselves, your name, your organization, and whether you're in opposition. But for the 4 of you, please continue.
Thank you. My name is Eric Hines. I'm a 4th grade teacher in Pittsburgh, California, and also the new vice president-elect of the California Teachers Association. And I'm here in opposing the bill. I think it's funny that we have teaching is the only profession where the more skill and experience you get, the less value you become. And I think if we tried that same measure with the medical profession or with dentists or anything like that, I think we would have some results that are not to our liking. And then we want to replace them with measures that are not reliable and not valid and were never intended to measure teacher effectiveness. But the worst part of this is it doesn't really address the problem of low-achieving schools or schools where teachers don't want to work. It is the chronic bleeding of resources that have affected our system in the past 3 years, over $20 billion, and now if we pass a budget that includes tax extensions, that's the good first step. That will create cause from the beginning of the problem. But if you really want to retain the best and the brightest of teachers, both experienced and new, and create schools where every teacher wants to work, fully fund the system. Focus on real reforms like the Quality Education Investment Act, SB 1133, which focuses extra resources in schools where it's most needed, which focuses on smaller class sizes, giving the staffs in those schools, all the stakeholders, the resources and the control of those resources to implement reforms that they need at their school site. Then you'll see real turnaround, and in fact, we're already seeing turnaround in the QEIA schools, including the achievement gap and among all socioeconomically disadvantaged Hispanic, African American students, and special ed students. These are the kind of reforms we should be focusing on. Real reforms, resources to schools, not this blame game of the teachers. Let's stop this and move on with what really works. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Mr. Chair, Seth Bramble on behalf of the California Teachers Association. CTA is strongly opposed to this measure. You know, the bill does a whole laundry list of things, and I would be happy to I would welcome an opportunity afterwards if there was a desire to have a debate on any one of those proposals.
Afterwards, not now.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just saying I'm going to talk about one particular issue, but I recognize that this bill has like 15 proposals.
And we do too, and thank you for pointing that out. This is a very complex bill, and I think that what you've done, and I think the author would admit that too, it does far beyond. And I think that's the author who deal with just seniority. It deals with issues around assessment, evaluation, lots and lots of other issues, student performance data. And so I'm grateful that you're only going to pick one aspect to respond to.
And the bill, again, does a number of things, and we have a number of concerns. One of the most problematic provisions is the proposal to tie evaluations with layoffs. Administrators generally do not have the training or the time to conduct thorough and validated evaluations of teacher performance. Under this proposal, instead of going through a for-cause dismissal hearing, a principal would need only to determine that a teacher was not effective and, as a result, subject to layoff with the weakest of forums to challenge that determination. There was some discussion about civil rights education being the civil rights issue of our time. While I may agree with that concept, I certainly disagree with this approach to deal with that issue and object strongly to civil rights being framed in this bill as a solution to a civil rights issue. Dr. King, who died fighting for striking sanitation workers, certainly did not envision a world where teachers would work in fear of retaliation, in fear of discrimination, in fear of favoritism, and it's simply unfair, as this bill suggests, that a principal would be able to dismiss a veteran teacher on the basis of a single evaluation. Senate Bill 355 treats the symptoms. It doesn't treat the disease. I doubt very much, I would ask you, whether we would be having this discussion or the last if there weren't 20,000 laid-off educators in this state. The problems this bill seeks to fix are caused by these mountains of layoffs. And, you know, these layoffs were magnified by the fact that districts were allowed to increase their class size and keep class size reduction dollars. One thing I really want to emphasize, this proposal will not save school districts one dime. What we need our lawmakers focused on right now are bringing class sizes back into a manageable scope, saving jobs, bringing art and music back into our schools, keeping schools open, keeping school libraries open, and providing assistance to the kids. Taken as a whole, these proposals move California in the opposite direction of what sensible reform entails, and that is to recruit and retain quality teachers. They would essentially do away with due process, which has the potential to erode academic freedom, which must remain touchstone to any public education system. And for these reasons, the California Teachers Association urges your no vote.
Other witnesses in opposition?
Thank you. Lynn Fox on behalf of the California Federation of Teachers. We also are in strong opposition to this bill, mainly because of the tie between evaluation and seniority. We also have concerns. There's been conversation about constitutional rights. We're also concerned that this bill actually excludes constitutional protection for teachers under the Equal Protection Law. So there are some concerns in this bill. As my colleague mentioned, there are many. We would simply ask for your no vote and remind you also that this bill is here simply because of the financial crisis that we're in. We believe that funding is the issue. Thank you.
Other witnesses in opposition?
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Amundsen. I'm a special education teacher at C.K. McClatchy High School here in Sacramento, and I'm also chair of the NEA National Education Association Caucus for Educators of Exceptional Children. As you may be aware, federal law mandates students with special needs be educated in the least restrictive environment. Provisions of this bill would have a chilling effect on the willingness of general ed teachers to participate in the inclusive practices that are growing around this country, for the simple reason, if the students in your class fail to perform in an arbitrary and ambiguous growth model, you will be held accountable. I urge you to vote no and keep the doors open, the Public Law 94-142 open for all students. Thank you.
Other witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chair, my name is Doug Marquez. I'm a history teacher at Lavanya Dijon Middle School in Richmond. I've been told that next year I will have 48 children in each of my classrooms. I do not see how a new teacher or a young teacher is going to be able to deal with that. A teacher who may have been capable at 30 students, now getting 48. The people in this house are the ones that are pushing our number of students up. This is not the answer. The answer is to fully fund our education. I urge a no vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
I'm going to take your direction as a teacher and president of Vista Teachers Association and just say I oppose this.
And your name first.
Barbara Franklin.
Thank you. Others just state.
Yes, my name is John Farrington from Salinas. I'm a special education teacher, and I'm one of those old people who's standing in the way of all those young teachers' jobs, and I'm here to say, please vote no on this particular item.
Thank you.
Happy Day of the Teacher, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Linda Ramsey. I am the 2011 Teacher of the Year from my school, Union Middle School in San Jose. I strongly urge you to oppose this bill.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Good afternoon. My name is Darcy Chan Blackburn. I am a kindergarten teacher at Bryan Elementary School in San Francisco, and I strongly urge your no vote.
Thank you. Just these are the way we should be presenting. Thank you. I mean, we're doing fine.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Jesse Aguilar. I'm an art teacher at East Bakersfield High School in Bakersfield, and I strongly urge a no vote because this bill makes the assumption that the problem with education in California are the teachers rather than the funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Just come on. Yes.
Mr. Chair.
I've seen you before.
My name is Chris Boucher, and I'm a chemistry teacher at Beverly Hills High School, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Chairman, I am a highly effective 69-year-old Teresa Ann Sams, special ed teacher, Henry Clay Middle School, LA Unified School District, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
I'm Pushpalata City, San Francisco Unified School District pre-K school, pre-K teacher, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Ken McPherson, I teach in Natomas Unified School District, and I oppose this bill, and I urge you to vote no.
Thank you.
Lorraine Reggio Schwartz, special education teacher in Fremont Irvington High School. I disagree with about 98.7% of the testimony you heard in support of this bill, and we don't have time to discuss that.
That's right.
I strongly disagree with and urge you to vote no on this.
Thank you. Before we go on, are you all waiting on line back there? Where's the end of the line? You are the end. I am not going to let any what? There's more?
No, she just came as the last.
Oh no! Oh.
Speak into the microphone clearly.
Let's go. Come on.
Mr. Chair and Senators, my name is Michelle Shipp, kindergarten teacher in Newcomb Academy, Long Beach.
Right.
And we strongly urge you to vote no on this.
Thanks, Michelle.
My name is Steve.
This is a good...
Mr. Chair, my name is Steve Weil. I'm from Stockton, California, Franklin High School, and I strongly urge you to oppose this bill.
Thank you.
I'm Chuck Denon. I'm from Twin Rivers. One of the speakers in favor came from that. Unfortunately, we're opening the door for age discrimination on an opportunity to take away the employment of seniors teachers and replace them because it's cost effective. The second is that's a district that eliminated or essentially reduced the effectiveness of the peer assistance and review program. I'm a selected quality leader of mathematics teachers. I served as the president of the peer assistance and review program that doesn't exist anymore to help the weak teachers. We should be providing protections from those that are the victims of unfair evaluations and ensuring that the job is done correctly before we eliminate the rights and protect all teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
Yes, my name is Miriam Aguilar, Mr. Chairman. My name is Miriam Aguilar. I am a preschool teacher in National City Elementary Association. And this is very painful to me because I know that if this bill passes, my accent will be the first one that will be.
Take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath.
I have been a teacher for many years, a very good teacher. After many good evaluations, being the first Hispanic mentor at the South California for early childhood, we have new administrators who have never been teacher in their life, who do not have a big class credential, and they are telling me now, "Oh, you have an accent." Yes, I do, sir. "Oh, you have mannerisms." Yes, I do, sir. I am a teacher, a very good teacher, and my student can testify for that. So I urge you today to say no, to vote no in this bill, because this will create many others unfair treatment for the minority teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been here for a while. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Elliot Rogers from Larkspur, California. I teach 7th grade history, language arts. I think in my 16 years of teaching, I've seen so many reforms and education as a political football for so long that it's nice to know that I have teachers and compatriots in my profession that know the difference between good and bad reforms, good and bad laws, and that we see the students instead of just the reforms as the need and meet the needs of our students on a daily basis.
Thank you. Other witnesses, just in opposition, just your name, your school, and whether you're in support or opposition.
With all due respect, Mr. Chair, I wanted to share that I'm a teacher at a persistently low achieving school. By definition, I'm an ineffective teacher. This summer, I will be moving to a different school. By definition, I will be an effective teacher. Therein lies the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
I'm Lorraine Angel. I'm from Calaveras Unified School District, and I teach chemistry, and I'm in opposition to this bill.
Mr. Chair, my name is Jennifer Tarabakia. I'm an elementary science teacher in Lincoln, California. I vehemently oppose this bill.
Mr. Chair, my name is Karen Wallace, and I'm a middle school science teacher at Calaveras Unified School District, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my name is Darren Wilkerson. I'm in my 11th year as a teacher. I hope to teach for a good 40 years, and I hope that my age will not be discriminated against as I become a better teacher through my career. I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my name is Sandy Pope. I'm a 5th grade teacher in Las Virgenes and a 38-year damn good teacher. I just want to say to you that I'm embarrassed by the superintendents and principals who stood before you and spoke about poor teachers in their districts. It was their job to evaluate and get rid of those teachers.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Betty Olson-Jones. I am an excellent fifth grade teacher and president of the Oakland Education Association, but if I were evaluated on the basis of my students' test scores, I might not be, because I don't choose my students. They come with all kinds of issues. They come from homes that are in poverty. It is not fair to judge teachers by test scores or students or schools, and it is not fair to discriminate between older teachers and younger teachers.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
My name is Cynthia Hahn. I'm from the Center Unified School District, proud teacher, 34 years. And I just want to say that part of this is causing problems between the younger teachers and the older teachers. I've been approached many times saying, when are you going to retire so I can have your job? I'm completely opposed to this. Thank you.
Tom Noriega, San Diego, California. I'm a math teacher and a special educator. I've been teaching for 33 years. I would like to say that we already have in place in the education code a way to get rid of the duds that Mr. Huff talked about. And if administrators did their job, they can get rid of any teacher. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, good morning. My name is Jose Alcala, and I teach at an alternative education high school. So I work with the state's lowest with our state's lowest performing students, and by definition, I would never be highly qualified or an effective teacher. Teaching a kid in high school to read at 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, to us, that's a big step when they came to us and couldn't read. So
you oppose the bill. Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chair, my name is Amy Hall. I'm a science teacher at Vista Lago High School in Moreno Valley, California, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my name is Frederick Burt, substitute teacher in Los Angeles Unified School District. I started out as a full-time teacher in a protected 9th grade academy with a maximum of 30 students per class. I was considered effective. The next year I was sent to 10th grade. I had 40 to 45 students in class. I couldn't make the transition. I was thankfully able to become a substitute teacher, and the experienced teachers I have worked for and with have taught me how to be an effective teacher no matter what my class is. We need our experienced teachers.
Thank you.
Hi, Nancy Hofrock from Fontana Unified School District. I want to speak with you just for a quick moment about the unintended consequence for my students. For 27 years, I have worked with English language learners. That's where my heart is. That's where I intend to stay. However, this bill, should it pass, would cause people to run like hell away from English language learners and special education children. And that is a consequence, frankly, I don't think those children deserve. My children deserve equal access.
Thank you.
My name is Curtis Washington. I'm a high school science teacher in the San Mateo Union High School District. And I stand here as an African American telling you that this bill will drive resources away from the communities that need it the most. I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
My name's Masao Brown. I teach combination grades 2 and 3 in Alameda, and I strongly urge you to vote no.
Thank you.
Doug Nielsen from Coalinga High School. I teach government. I've been teaching for 25 years, and I'm a whole heck of a lot more effective than I was 25 years ago.
Thank you.
John Haschak. I teach world history in Willits. I strongly oppose this bill.
Thank you.
San Francisco teacher Susan Solomon. I urge you to oppose this bill and concentrate on laying off 0 teachers. Thank you.
Faith Brandstetter, LA County Education Association, special ed teacher. We teach incarcerated youth, alternative ed, and special ed. We're all ineffective because our kids aren't making the grade. They come to us with these issues. I strongly and vehemently oppose this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my name is Veronica Miranda Pinckney, and I'm a teacher at Baccarat Charter Academy in San Jose, and I urge you to vote no.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm Karen Sauer with San Jose Unified School District, and I'm a special education teacher, and I urge you to vote no.
Mr. Chair, my name is Elvia de la Cruz. I'm an English teacher at Montebello High School, and I urge you to vote no.
Thank you.
Thomas Rubio, Los Angeles Harbor area teacher. 20 years ago, I was a probationary teacher, and I was let go. I was said to be an effective teacher. I went back to school, got some better education, and here I am today teaching and trying to be as effective as I can.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chair, good afternoon. I'm Mike Patterson. I live in Myers, California. I teach at South Tahoe High School, and I'm here to oppose this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Joyce Childs. I'm a special education teacher in the Twin Rivers Unified School District, and I'm here to oppose this bill.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Markowitz, retired teacher from the Los Virgenes Unified School District, and I virulently oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claudia Sandberg Larson, science teacher, Natoma Schools. I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Donna Bray Romero. I'm a highly qualified, highly sought after, 33-year veteran teacher, and I vehemently oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ashley Beatus. I'm a National Board Certified Teacher teaching first grade in the San Bernardino City Unified School District, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Davina Kaiser, mathematics and music teacher in Long Beach Unified School District, Wilson High School. I oppose this bill because I believe that it will deter teachers from collaborating together and making our schools stronger.
Thank you.
My name is Alice Mercer. I teach here in Sacramento at a priority school. My prior career in banking was when they were introducing complex risk models, such as being contemplated used here. We saw what it did to banking. I urge you not to use them in education.
Mr. Chair, my name is David Eldridge, math teacher at Lyndhurst High School, with only 7 years teaching experience, and yet I strongly urge you to oppose this bill.
Mr. Chair, Roberta Consani, Los Virgenes School District. I'm a 33-year veteran who has mentored dozens of new teachers in the past, and I continue to mentor new teachers today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Gilbert Chan, and I'm a high school teacher in the San Francisco Unified School District. I strongly urge you to adamantly vote no.
Mr. Chair, I am an English teacher at a high school in Orange Unified School District, and I don't see the validity of holding teachers accountable for test scores where students themselves are not accountable.
Thank you.
Steve Need, 5th grade, Oakland. I urge you to vote no on this bill, and I appreciate you giving us so much time to testify and listening to us so attentively, much more attentively than our local school board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lowenthal and the committee, I want to thank you all for your support of education. My name is Cookie Uretsky. I'm a passionate educator. I've taught for 30 years. I want to throw something out to you, Mr. Huff. I think that the educator from the head of the education committee from Korea has said repeatedly in the news that he has found that he had erred in placing so much emphasis on testing, and that the United States should take a look at what we're doing, because we're creating robotons in our classroom and not allowing teachers to actually teach the student, the whole child. My name is Cookie Uretsky, and I strongly oppose this vote.
Thank you.
One more thing, please. I think also that if we want to look at saving money, instead of placing value on educate as tests as a score to education, we should go back to our old method of testing 3rd, 5th, 7th, 10th grade and save money. The state spends an awful lot of money on testing, and that's a good budget cut.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation, and we strongly agree with all the comments of the previous opponents, and we also urge your opposition to the bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Christy Bauma here on behalf of the California Professional Firefighters in opposition, and also an 11-year former high school math teacher in Hesperia Unified School District in opposition.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'm Lorena T. Valenzuela from South LA. I'm a teacher and English language coordinator. I urge you to not support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lynn Fermiglia. I'm a 6th grade science teacher at Cabrillo Middle School in Santa Clara. As a nationally board certified teacher, I strongly oppose this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think that's it. Everybody take a deep breath. All right, let's bring it back now. I have a few things, and then I would like other members of the you know, Senator Huff, when you began, you said this is just a simple, permissive bill. I think it's permissive, but I would not call it simple. And my sense about it, after listening to what I think has been a very, very good debate, is that this truly, to me, is the cart before the horse, that we're talking about how employers can reduce or make employment decisions, especially and change it not based upon seniority, other kinds, before we have an effective assessment and evaluation system that's fair, that's just, that's based upon collaboration and multi-measures. I think this committee so far is struggling with this issue. You have raised many significant issues, but we have so far in this committee passed out SB 257, Senator Liu's bill. I urge you, before we get to the question in this 2-year process, because that bill will take a long time before it goes through the process, before we complete this 2-year session, that you work with Senator Liu. Senator Liu's bill has the purpose also of dealing with an assessment and evaluation. Hers bill has a different focus, though. Her bill's purpose is to improve teaching practices and provide feedback and professional development that moves teachers to pedagogical best practices. The focus is on the teacher and supporting the teacher and moving it to best practices, and also to use other data, student data like yours, but to use that in the context of a collaborative approach that begins to deal with this. It will encourage teachers to improve. I think it's the right step. I think it's the message that I would like this committee to send forward, that we understand and we agree that we do need to make some difficult decisions, but they have to be based upon a fair system, which is pointed out, where evaluators are trained. Evaluators now do not have very much training. There is not kind of uniformity between how teachers are evaluated. And we don't link the evaluation and the feedback back to teachers and then provide them the support systems to improve and to work with them before we get into dismissing them. I think that if you work if we come up with a fair system, then we can move forward with other issues. I think to introduce how we eliminate seniority and other issues before we've dealt with a fair, just system really sets back education. And so with that, I would hope that you would work with us, work with Senator Liu, not take up this bill now, and then see if we can work on that part of the process and then come back to what are the implications after we have, in a collaborative way, come up with an evaluation and assessment system that we agree upon, all of us, with everyone coming in. Then we can deal with some of these other issues. So I would urge that right now. With that, are there other members? Senator Vargas and then Senator Liu.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for bringing the bill forward. I appreciate. I think you're making an honest attempt of trying to figure something out here, and I appreciate that. I can't support it because I do think it's going a little bit in the wrong direction. As you know, I was a Jesuit for 5 years, and the Jesuits do a lot of teaching. And in fact, the things I do remember is they said that experience was the most important thing. That's what the principals would all tell you. And then that repetitio est mater studiorum. Repetition is the mother of learning. Those are the two things I remember quite well. But one of the things that I also learned was that some of those teachers that you think are the really bad teachers, because of some opinions, turn out to be the really good teachers. It's not the case that you think that a teacher is ineffective because he or she is not well liked, or that he or she does not do well with some students when those students have a lot of other issues going along, myself included. When I started school, I couldn't speak English. And I know that my teacher did a heck of a good job attempting to teach me English because I didn't know any English at all. And if she had been graded on my ability to read or write in English, it would have been incredibly unfair because, again, I didn't speak the language. So I don't think that what you're attempting to do in the bill here is going in the right direction. I would, however, say that there are kids that have a very difficult time learning because of poverty, because of where they live, a whole bunch of other issues. And I would pay teachers more if they went to teach in those schools. I think that would be very important. I know that there's not agreement on that, but I think that is the way to look at the whole issue of civil rights. The resources to those poor kids, the resources going to those schools. We had a bill like that earlier with Senator Hernandez. So again, I thank you for bringing the bill forward. I think it's an honest attempt, but I think it misses the mark. But thank you for bringing it forward.
Senator Liu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I, too, Senator Huff, appreciate the effort here. I think you have put a lot of issues on the table, and it's not simple. It's a very complicated issue. But for me, as a former school teacher, I mean, I think it's really important to involve teachers in the process of this evaluation issue that we're talking about, and to not and to be supportive, because the relationship between teachers and students is the most important relationship in student progress and in the profession, in the teacher process too. So as the chair has suggested, I mean, there are two of us, you and I, on the Senate side at least, are interested in this topic, and I would really look forward to sitting down with you and trying to work out something that would be amenable to everybody, including teachers, to perhaps so we can move something forward. I know that we have counterparts in the Assembly too that are also interested in this issue. So, you know, hopefully it's a long process. As you know, that I have had a series of stakeholder meetings in my district, which involved what I think are not only the teachers and the administrators and the parents, et cetera, who have come to a table to try to talk about this. And as you know, my bill was something that provided a framework. It didn't have a lot of stuff in it. But that discussion needs to happen, and it needs to be inclusive. And so I would I really appreciate your insights and participation too, along with everybody else that needs to have a say in what's going on in our schools. And you know, when we talk about full funding, I don't know what that means anymore, because it's a scale that has tremendous range, and you know, and I have always been criticized in my little community of La Cañada that, you know, I've never bypassed any kind of opportunity to vote for schools and any kind of parcel tax or whatever it happens to be, because just inherently I feel like we have underfunded our kids, and so and it's the kids that I'm most concerned about. That's the byproduct. That's the end product of what we do here, and so if that's the end product, then teachers are the relationship that needs to happen and needs to be effective. So I am really encourage us to try to work some things out that we can move forward in this committee. And I would hope that at the chair's suggestion, that hold the bill in the committee and that we can work this out for another year.
Senator Alquist.
Thank you. I became interested in this issue of accountability.
Senator Alquist, we can't hear you. Can you speak?
Thank you, Senator Lowenthal. Back in 1983, when I ran for the Board of Education of the Cupertino Union School District, I ran on a platform of accountability. And it's been an interesting road over these many years. And as a former high school math teacher, a K-12 guidance counselor, 8 years on the school board, 2 years of that as board president for a school district that serves 6 cities in Santa Clara County, there are 4 or 5 different things I'd like to say. I think the process of laying off teachers really does need to be addressed. There is a frustration there because laying off teachers should not be based on your young age or your old age or your in-between age. It ought to be based on all the time, how will you help children grow academically? The teaching profession, like any other profession, 95% are really good, and yet we really understand how difficult it can be if a child for 1 year has a teacher who does not help that child grow. There are systems in school districts to deal with this. Some administrators use this process and some don't. So we really need to look at that. Another issue is that we passed a bill out of this committee, Senator Liu's bill, that really does deal with evaluation and accountability. That is a truly good place to start. A peer review, it's no longer happening in some school districts. And I remember as a brand new teacher having 36 kids in my class in St. Louis. It's really important to have that professional training. Some school districts are able to do that. Some do not do that anymore. So these are many reasons why we need a greater sense of consistency. As Senator Lowenthal said, there are some systems that need to be put in place before we can look at some of these other issues. And I'll tell you, for me, one huge difference between now and a year ago when we looked at this bill is that I hope this doesn't happen, but we may have to go to an all-cuts budget if we don't have some bipartisan support. Not to dwell on that, but what that means if we have to do an all-cuts budget, because a budget is required by law, and unlike the federal government, we can't print money and we have to balance the budget. So if there aren't going to be revenues coming in, we are going to have to make severe cuts. And in a budget forum that Senator Simitian and I co-chaired and Senator Leno led last Friday in my district, we had the superintendents of the Franklin, McKinley School District and the Eastside Union High School District, both superintendents say, if we have to go to an all-cuts budget, they would rather see us end the school year in April. And isn't that chilling? If we would have to do that. Or that class size might have to be increased to 35, 40, or 48. These are immediate front burner issues school districts may very well have to deal with immediately. And that will have to be dealt with, and they will have to have the time to do that. So on this other issue, there are some things that are happening. We are moving forward. Finally, I think that's important. Senator Liu's bill takes us a great step forward. I also believe, in closing, that I would really like to see collaboration amongst CTA, AXA, school boards, in truly trying to decide some of these issues in terms of what really constitutes academic success. How do we really help children? Because I think in this chamber, we're all of good heart and good intent, and we need some clarification so that we all understand if this is what you do and you do a great job, we will move forward. And if there are ways that people need to be helped, or even in those rare cases where they should not be in the system, those consistent measures statewide need to be in place.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Runner.
Well, thank you, Senator Huff. I applaud you for being so brave today to bring this bill up today, the Day of the Teacher, and we have so many teachers here today. But you have brought it up in the past. I know it's something you've worked on for several years, and it isn't a partisan issue. Bipartisan aside, I think we all want to put children first, and that's the main goal of this, is to make sure those students are protected and have great teachers, and so many of you out there are great teachers. But I am concerned about the accountability and the student achievement, because most Californians statewide think that it's not being reflected by the decision-making here in the Capitol. And unfortunately, it sometimes becomes a partisan issue. This bill is not a partisan issue. You have garnered support, if amended, from LA Unified, from Mayor Antonio Villarosa, who served in this body. And unfortunately, the students have not been at the heart of what we're trying to do here. And unfortunately, or fortunately, Senator Vargas seems to support merit pay, which I think is another issue that we need to talk about. You good teachers out there need to get paid.
Hardship pay.
Hardship pay. Okay. Well, I also believe we need to pay teachers more that are good teachers. And so I applaud you for doing this and helping us communicate to parents and families that we believe that the poor teachers need, other than the system that we have now, to be laid off, as opposed to those who are the great teachers that are among us, and a place for evaluation. So I thank you for that effort.
Other members?
Well,
Senator Blakesley.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just add real quickly. I think in the last now 8 months, I've done something like 17 visits of school districts and school boards and superintendents and throughout my district, which is a very large district, and teachers. And the message that I heard loud and clear, or the impression I got loud and clear, was the incredible level of dedication we have in our schools. I mean, when you work up here long enough, I don't want to see you get jaded, but it's a tough job up here. Like being an EMT. You're out there, you see a lot of tough things, and you have to be able to soldier through. And I'll say, those visits in my district with people in schools was very moving and inspirational. But what I will say is a message that came back to me very consistently is a desire to have enough flexibility so that when there were teachers that maybe weren't at the top of their game, there's a better way to assess, analyze, coach, encourage, and have quantitative measures. And in those cases where there did need to be some, sadly, layoffs, be sure you weren't immediately throwing out the best and the brightest, while those who really had lost the will or had problems, just a small minority, were insulated from those impacts. And so, what I think I'd echo the comments I heard from Senator Runner. It's not a partisan issue, clearly not a partisan issue. It's not a matter of, how many dollars flow in the classroom. That's not what this is about. This is about, making sure that we have a process, that works for the purposes of incenting, creating a sense of excitement in schools, that there's growth, there's professional development, that there's an assessment of how we're doing. I visited a school district in particular which had received a $7.5 million grant for that very purpose, to create teacher mentors and create a quantifiable evaluation system for teachers. And some of the teachers at that school district had visited teachers at another site where it was used. They talked about how exciting it was for the teachers to get together and talk about performance, to have measures and metrics where they could kind of coach each other. So from my perspective, I think this improves the work environment. I think it improves the output. I think it helps the kids. And in those instances where you do sadly have to have layoffs, you've got an intelligent way to work through it so that you are really protecting your teachers from those who may not be performing, and you're protecting the kids. So I applaud the author as well. Again, it was through a lot of visits with a lot of school districts that I came to this opinion that there is a way to do this in a manner that is protective of teachers' rights. I'm 100% there. I think this is ultimately great for the school culture if it's done intelligently. And that's part of what this conversation is about. How do you do it?
That's right. Thank you, Senator Blakesley. Not hearing any senator. This has been a full discussion. It's up to you now.
Yes, it has been a full discussion, and I would like to address some of the comments made by the audience.
Certainly.
I often agree with you, Mr. Chairman, but I disagree with you in characterizing this as a complex bill. I do not believe it is. It has become complex because we are not really looking for solutions. We're looking for ways to defend the status quo. The status quo is failing us. Some of the comments were, regarding medical and dental. Don't we want the most skilled and experienced there? We get the ability to choose our dentist or our doctor. And if we don't like the ones assigned by an HMO, we can go to an emergency room. We have choices there. Our school kids are trapped. We have some level, a minimum level of choice afforded them through district transfers. A few districts have the District of Choice program. There's a parent trigger now for some of the chronically underperforming schools, but there's very little choice afforded there. These schools have to go there. And so if they get just one bad teacher in their 12 years of K-12, what does that do for setting them back? I think we agreed before that all teachers are not created equal. Certainly the testimony varied, just like our testimony and our assessment up here. We're different people. Are the electorate, are they quality blind to us when they elect us? No. They evaluate us. They figure out which one they think will best represent them, and they put us up here. We should not have a quality blind approach to those who are teaching our kids. We are continuing to mess up another generation. 95% of the teachers are great. It's the other 5, maybe even 3, maybe even 2. But we should have an approach that understands there are differences, an approach that recognizes the difference, an approach that rewards those that are making a difference in our kids' life, and not just continuing to promote those who are there for different reasons or they're ineffective or whatever. A few other items. One of the comments was administration doesn't have the training to evaluate. Well, you know, this bill sets up a protocol to evaluate principals as well. It's not just the teachers, because that's one of the common complaints I get. Well, what about the principals? You know, everybody's had a demon principal. I get that. I come from a family of educators, and many in the audience don't know that. My father and my mother, both educators, 2 brothers, 3 in-laws. We talked education all the time. They are all CTA members. But having said that, we didn't always agree on things. Most of the time we did. But a lot of my thoughts I bring to you come through the prism of their experience in the years. Actually, about 5 of those are now retired. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. But this would evaluate principals as well and hold them to that accountability. If their school is not improving, based on whatever measures are designed out of this, then they need to be taken a look at also. There's a comment that the bill makes an assumption the problem is teachers, not funding. Listen, I want education funding as well. The Republican plan had a cap on spending for the state. It left education out of that. We have more money in education. We have more money coming in with the budget revision. We're going to find $2.5 billion cash on hand this fiscal year. We're going to have probably minimum $2.5 billion more for next fiscal year. That's $5 billion. Republicans want to fully fund Prop 98. So that aside, you can't just say that it's a funding issue. The data shows, as I talked about before, under Prop 98, we started dedicating more money to education, and yet the results are pretty well flatlined. If you look nationwide, which I didn't have data for the last 30 years, but nationwide, we've over doubled our funding, adjusted for inflation, and our results have been flatlined. You can't continue to do the same thing without finding some reforms to get a product. Because if there's no difference, the opposite question could be asked, why don't we fund education less? If it's not going to change the outcome, but I think we all want to see the outcome. I want to reward teachers. I want to reward teachers that go in the tough areas. Ironically, what happens now is often those are the energetic ones that are willing to go in there, they get laid off because they're being affected. Last year we had a Harvard-educated teacher laid off, LA Unified. So he gets on the permanent sub list, gets hired. Eventually, somebody in an opening comes up, he gets hired again, he gets laid off the next year. Outstanding teacher, but because we have a quality blind approach, he had to continually get laid off. Now, LA Unified solved their problem a little bit through litigation. Last year, I had a lot of civil rights folks side by side with me because it was a ripe issue. They temporarily solved it, but it leaves it blind for the rest of the state. One of the speakers said that, if I got it right, there was no civil rights group support. We have 2 letters here, one from Greater Sacramento Urban League, the other Congress of Racial Equality of California, Legal Defense and Education Fund, both in support, as well as the others that I mentioned. There was a comment that an accent would hurt an evaluation. I just don't see how that happens. Again, the school district is the one that defines the evaluation. Teachers are involved in the process. It's not like some outside people are doing this. This is negotiated through contract. First of all, do you want to have something other than seniority? No, we don't. End of story. Yes, we do. Here's what we want for it. then the teachers have every bit of say of how that is put together, because it is a bargain deal just like anything else if they choose to do it. That part is very simple. A teacher complained that in a low-performing school, they, by definition, were a low-performing teacher, and they would go to a high-performing school next, they would, by definition, be a high-performing teacher. You don't understand the concept. My bill requests that 30% or more of an evaluation, if they choose to have an evaluation, be based on student performance. Now, there's value-added tests, and I get it that some people don't like that, but that quantifies what the teacher impact is in somebody's life, regardless of what that child's capacity is, regardless of what his background is. Some teachers have more impact on students, others have less impact. This bill says at least 30% has to assess that. But if you go to a high-performing school and you're a dud teacher, you're still a dud teacher. And if you're in a low-performing school and you're just having a much greater impact on your students, you're going to be retained under this bill. It has nothing to do with the school. It's quality blind on that. The way to get rid of duds already. One of the comments was how we have a process. This is a summary of what it is. 10 different steps to get rid of a so-called dud teacher, and it takes 2 to 3 years. It can cost anywhere from $300,000 up to $3 million, according to testimony that we have seen. It is not an easy process, and because it's not an easy or cheap process and it doesn't have outcomes that are predictable, you can spend all that money and still not get where you want to go. Many times schools do not go through the process. It's just too much of a pain. That has to change, because right now it's punishing the kids for a few bad teachers. This bill would take teachers away from English language learners. Again, it's how you set up the assessment. It has nothing to do with that. It's an extraneous issue. I could go on a lot more with some of the comments there, but I just wanted to underscore that the concept is simple. Let's not make it difficult. I will work with Senator Lieu. I think we have a common passion to help education, but I will stipulate right here, I don't think our approaches are mutually exclusive. I don't think it has to be her bill or her way or not my bill. I think they can both move forward. Mr. Vargas, I already talked to you about the poverty areas. I think there should be bonuses for going into areas like that, but I don't want to lay off the good teachers just because we have a quality blind approach to who stays or who doesn't. And was pointed out in LA Unified last year, that creates a churning. In some cases, you had school districts that had 70% of the teachers brand new the next year because they just laid off the last round. I was with a teacher a few weeks ago, a principal, excuse me, very sharp guy, engineer by training, got his PhD, came back to teach because he wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And I shared this with Senator Lieu already because it's in her district. But he said he just had to give pink slips to 6 of his best teachers because he didn't have any other way to make that evaluation. He says these are people that if that follows through at the end of the school year when we have to finalize that, they will never come back. They'll go out, they'll find other jobs, they're very capable, and we will have lost a great contribution to education in our region because we are not allowed to make quality assessments on who we keep. Some people a lot smarter than me and a lot higher profile, such as Michelle Rhee, former Chancellor of Washington, D.C., public schools. It's an absolutely indefensible policy. Arne Duncan, United States Education Secretary. A law based on seniority doesn't help kids and doesn't help kids that need the most help. John Dacey, Superintendent of LA Unified School District. We shouldn't have layoffs based on seniority, period. Current law absolutely prohibits from doing it any other way. That's what my bill addresses. It gives a path to assess teachers on merit, on quality, not just a quality blind approach. And frankly, and in my close, I believe we do the teaching profession a disservice when we insist that all teachers are equal and that we approve and we retain based only on how many years they've been there or how many units they have or whatever it is, but it's a seniority rather than quality approach. And by the way, I did keep in the amendments that I took, Senator Alquist, last year for you in recognition that we don't want to punish those that are getting close to retirement. This bill did get out of Senate Education last year. It was actually more complex last year, and I appreciate the support last year. I hope that you support it this year. I'm going to ask that you go ahead and take a vote. I listened to all the testimony. I think that the people that are watching and concerned about this, including those in the audience, ought to know how we all stand on this, and I ask for your aye vote.
Is there a motion on the bill?
Move the bill.
Bill's been moved by Senator Runner. Do pass. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal. Runner.
Aye.
Runner, aye. Alquist. Blakesley. Aye. Blakesley, aye. Hancock.
No.
Hancock, no. Huff.
Aye.
Huff, aye. Lou. Price. Smidian. Vargas.
No.
Vargas, no. 3-2.
The bill has 3 aye votes, 2 no votes. We'll place it on call for the absent members. Thank you very much, Senator. And reconsideration will be granted if this bill fails. All right, Senator Price, are you up? Are you ready? While we're waiting for Senator Price, is there a motion on the consent calendar? We have 2 items on the consent calendar, item number 6 and item number 8, Senator Weiland and Senator Fuller. Consent with amendments. Senator Fuller is with amendments, proposed consent with amendments, and Senator Weiland is just on consent. Bill, both those have been moved. Will the Secretary please call the roll on the consent calendar?
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner.
Aye.
Runner, aye. Alquist. Alquist, aye. Blakesley.
Yeah. Aye.
Blakesley, aye. Hancock. Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Lou. Lou, aye. Price.
Aye.
Price, aye. Smidian. Vargas.
Aye.
Vargas, aye.
Consent calendar has 9 votes. We'll place it on call for the absent members. All right. Senator Price, welcome.
Thank you. Another
It's not welcome. You've been here the whole time.
Measure, none. Mr. Chairman, members, Senate Bill 509 addresses a major concern affecting our state's public schools, particularly our lowest achieving schools. The bill is sponsored by the California Association of African American School Administrators in an effort to address some of the purchasing constraints currently in place. While many school districts recognize that purchasing current instructional materials is key for improving educational outcomes, they're currently prohibited from purchasing instructional materials from the most recent adoption unless they are purchased for each pupil within the district. This is not feasible for most districts. A recent LAO survey showed that schools were relying heavily on flexible funding and shifting money away from purchasing new instructional materials. SB 509 gives school districts the flexibility to purchase instructional materials for students in the lowest achieving schools, ranked in deciles 1 through 3 of the American Performance Index for any one of the past 3 school years prior to purchasing for the remainder of the district. Members, many students in our lowest performing schools are currently using 2002 reading materials, and we have another 5 to 7 years before new materials are adopted. That would mean no new reading materials until 2018, and students will be forced to use outdated materials that are nearly 16 years old. Finally, let me say that this bill does not require schools to make new purchases at this time, nor does it violate the spirit and implementation of the Williams Settlement, which requires that all students in each grade level have a complete set of standards, aligned instructional materials in the 4 core subjects of reading, math, science, and social studies. Phyllis Marshall is here representing the Association of American Publishers and others to support in testimony to this measure.
Thank you, Senator Price. You have support on both sides, so if the testimony could be brief, those in support?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Phyllis Marshall with Manat Phelps and Phillips on behalf of the Association of American Publishers. I definitely want to commend Senator Price on bringing this bill. It's part of his effort in addressing achievement gap issues. He had a hearing last year. This bill will create some flexibility so that districts will be able to purchase school books for the neediest school districts. We certainly are mindful of the fact that school districts are really trying to maintain their budgets, and flexibility is something that they need. This bill will create that flexibility, but at the same time it will target those students that are in most need of receiving those up-to-date instructional materials. We ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Witnesses in support?
Terry
Support
McGann.
on both sides of the aisle. Be brief.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. Terry McGann, California Strategies and Advocacy on behalf of Pearson Education. One of the unintended consequences, I think, of providing flexibility at the local level, which is a good idea in a period of economic strain, was overlooked. There were over 100 categories that were exempted, which probably made sense. There were too many categorical things. But the idea of not having textbooks and giving kids an equal chance to get an education is probably not a very good idea. So we thank you for your support.
Other witnesses in support?
Theo Jackson on behalf of Hugh Mifflin Harcourt in support.
Thank you.
Theo Shimasaki with the Association of American Publishers. I was just here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? Members of the committee? Bill's been moved by Senator Vargas. Would you like to close, Senator Price?
Just I appreciate the support of the of staff and of all the stakeholders. We'll continue to keep working out any concerns that they may have.
Thank you, Senator. Will the Secretary please call the roll? Do pass.
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
Aye.
Runner, aye. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Blakesley?
Aye.
Blakesley, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Lou? Lou, aye. Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Semidian? Vargas?
Aye.
Vargas, aye.
Bill has 8 votes sufficient for passage. We're going to place it on call for the absent members. Members, we have 2 bills left, Senator Semidian's and mine. Senator Semidian is presenting, so I'm going to present his bill for him, and then I'll present my bill. Thank you, Senator Ryder.
Okay, so you're Senator Smidian right now.
Yes, I am.
All right. You don't look like him, but you
I
may
urge you not.
proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. SB 30, this is on transitional kindergarten implementation, serves as a placeholder for any issues that may need to be addressed this year regarding the implementation of the transitional kindergarten program. As to the contents of the bill now, it makes a technical change to existing law to extend by 1 year from January 1, 2012 to January 1, 2013, the date by which the final report of the Kindergarten Readiness Pilot Program is to be submitted. Members, if there are any changes as we move forward on the transitional kindergarten program, Senator Semidian commits to bringing this bill back. Right now it's a placeholder. We're waiting for that report to come out. There's no way in which he could put content into the bill at this moment, but we need to move this forward if there are changes, and this committee needs to hear about the transitional kindergarten program. So with that, I don't know if the Senator has any supporters.
Any witnesses in
opposition? I could be a witness in support. Many roles I can take.
Okay, no support, no opposition.
Move the bill, Senator Runner.
Okay, thank you. The bill has been moved. We'll take a vote. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to support it. I do see it as a spot bill, and I do have an issue with transitional kindergarten starting when our budget is where it is right now. So, Secretary, call the roll.
Okay, the motion is due pass. Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
No.
Runner, no. Alquist? Blakesley?
No.
Blakesley, no. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, no. Lou? Lou, aye. Price? Price, aye. Semidion? Vargas?
Aye.
Vargas, aye.
Bill is 5-3, so we'll hold the roll open. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And your next bill,
Yes.
which could have been on consent. We all support teachers, right?
I know, and I think it's what an amazing day to have, because I think teachers really participated fully in this committee hearing, and as we've all noticed, there have been quite a few teachers in the building this week, and obviously in this room with us today. Today happens to be California's 29th annual Day of the Teacher. Dating from legislation that was first signed in 1982, every second Wednesday in May is designated as a day when we recognize the accomplishments of California school teachers and the very important contributions they make to our children, our economy, and the well-being of our society. This year, the Day of the Teacher comes at a time of great difficulty and uncertainty for California schools. We hear estimates of 20,000 teachers, let me repeat that, 20,000 teachers having received pink slips this spring. Put on notice that they may not have a job next year. They anxiously await their fate and won't know until we resolve the budget debate here in September what lies ahead for them. Members, we must and will continue to fight for K-12 schools to be held harmless in this budget, and I hope that we all work together towards the goal of seeing that many of these 20,000 layoff notices are rescinded. I just want to remember, I was thinking last night as I was going to present this about the favorite teacher that I had. And I remember when I had moved, when I was living in New York and I'd moved out, and I had when I was a sophomore in high school, I had a hitchhike to school. It was about 15 miles because I really wanted to continue. And Mrs. DeMarco, my world history teacher, would pick me up, take me to school when she could, and then I would wait for her and I would drive home. And she was the one that instilled in me the confidence that I had to go on and really pushed and supported me to go on. So thank you, Mrs. DeMarco, wherever you are today. Please join me in reflecting, all of us, on those teachers that made a difference in your lives, who helped you achieve what you've done, and honor them with your eye on this resolution. Thank you for hearing this in Policy Committee today, and I urge your aye vote.
Okay, again, there's support on both sides, and those in support of the bill?
Is this on?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Julie Carson. I'm actually a constituent of yours. I live in Granada Hills, and I teach for Kennedy San Fernando Community Adult School as part of LA Unified. And I really appreciate the spirit of this resolution and motion, and I support it. However, my students need more. They need the legislator to fully fund education. A well-educated population is the solution to California's economic recovery. So I appreciate the comments. Some of the comments I heard here today in support of teachers and education. I thank you very much.
Okay. And we fully support funding education as well. Yes, next witness in support.
Lynn Fermigli. I teach 6th grade science at Cabrillo Middle School in Santa Clara, National Board Certified Teacher. I am proud to be a constituent of Senator Semidion, and I want to thank this body for this resolution and for your support of it and of teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Madam Chair, my name is Chris Boucher. I am a resident of Los Angeles, so I am in Senator Curran Price's district. And so I thank the committee for this resolution. I'm a 17-year veteran teacher, and as I said previously, I'm teaching in Beverly Hills Unified. I'd like the committee to know that although Beverly Hills has a reputation of being perhaps immune to the budget pressures that are affecting everyone else, our school board voted to lay off 14 of our members, which is approximately 5% of our workforce on Monday night. And so the crisis that is affecting education right now and the quality that students of education received is broad-based. And although we may differ, I really do believe that tax extensions are the way to fully fund education going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Curtis Washington, high school science teacher in the San Mateo Union High School District, and I speak as a member of the Board of Directors of the California Teachers Association, and thanking you for this resolution. For me, it was a man in New Jersey named Patrick Maggio, and he's the one that told me that if I drank my milk and I studied hard, that I could be anything. And I think I'm a teacher in large part because of his influence. He was not a man of color, but he was a man of conscience, and I learned to love him. I also speak as a former member of the State Board of Ed, and I thank you in that capacity also. And we teachers, every once in a while, need a pat on the back, just so that we know that there is someone out there who cares as much as we do.
Thank you. And again, I'm glad teachers are here today as we honor teachers on this special day. More witnesses in support.
This is Laura Finco. I'm Doug Marquez. We're both in Senator Hancock's constituency, and we thank you for this resolution.
Thank you. Next.
Yes, my name is John Farrington. I'm from Senator Blakesley's area. I'm sorry he's not here to hear this. My school site, as I mentioned earlier, our district had 150 teachers some years ago. We still have the same number of students. We've cut our music program, our English learners program in part. We've cut our art program, our drama program. We had a foreign language program where we had Japanese, we had Spanish, we had French in the middle school. In fact, we were driving the programs for the high school district. Those are all gone. Music program goes this year. When I hear that you say that you want to support education funding, the $2 billion you're talking about is a drop in the bucket. We're asking for the extension of those other tax income, because if we don't have them, I have 16 more teachers who are going to be laid off this year in my district, and we're going to go to, from 150, we'll be at 103 with the same numbers of students. This year in algebra class, one of my special ed students was able to pass. However, she was in a class with 42 other students. If you do the math, if we cut our program by another 20%, that means our class sizes are going to go up by another 20%. And the $2 billion is just not going to do it. We need a full extension. I realize there's some side things that are involved in the negotiation, but the bottom line is this is about our kids, and this is about their future. It's about the future of the state of California, and it's somewhere along the line we need to have a couple of people in the Republican side of the House and the Senate to put aside those partisan things that where they're seem to be representing the Republican Party instead of the kids of the state of California. And we'd like to ask you, if you really do appreciate teachers, please give us the money to do our job. And also, the 20,000 teachers who are going to lose their jobs, they might be appreciated more if they had the money to keep their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is a Senate resolution about supporting teachers. Yes.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ronner, Senator Ronner. Mr. Lowenthal, you are doing a great job out there. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for everybody. I am a constituent. I am a representative from Mr. Juan Vargas. I work in South California, very close to the border. I really serve the underserved children. And I know that my children are not really Republican. They are not Democrat. They are human beings that need the support of United States, because we will be the future, and my students are really the future. So thank you so much for this resolution. And let me tell you one thing. Today I could have gotten a lot of flowers, maybe a lot of apples, but one thing that I want from you all today is that you say no to these two bills, the Bill 355 and 266. I know that if you say no to this, we will be in better hands, and the children will be in much better hands. Thank you so much for everything.
Okay, thank you. And could we keep it to this Senate resolution? We've already dealt with the other two bills at length.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chair Runner. My name is Dwayne Schaefer. I am professor, department head of counseling at Long Beach City College in Alan Lowenthal's area. And I guess it's appropriate to be the last person to speak in support of this bill. I need not bore you with the other, not bore you, but really you already know the issues, I should say. And basically, with the community colleges, and particularly at Long Beach City College, we're cutting 222 sections of courses. Students cannot get into Cal State Long Beach or any other CSU or UC of their choice because they are not meeting the minimum requirements so they can transfer or even get in the classes they need. We're down to one summer session this year as we were last year, and I understand next year the proposal is there will be no summer session. So students, after they're leaving K through 12, really are finding it difficult for where they're going to go. I also am the president of my local, and I'm also just elected CCA, which is the Community College Association secretary. So we are really working hard, not only with you all here in this room, but others outside this room, to see that what can we do to make this all work as we move into academic year 11-12. Thank you, and I do ask for an aye vote on this issue.
Thank you. And I assume there's no opposition to this bill. I don't think anybody would step up to the table, but I have to ask. And Senator Blakesley, you had a constituent here. You'll have to meet with him later that you missed giving testimony. All right. Would you like to close, Senator Lowenthal?
I urge your aye vote.
Okay. Thank you. Good close. Secretary, call the roll.
SR 16 be adopted. Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
Aye.
Runner, aye. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Blakesley?
Aye.
Blakesley, aye. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, aye. Lou, aye. Price? Price, aye. Smidian? Vargas?
Aye.
Vargas, aye. You have 9 votes.
Okay, we have 9 votes, and we'll hold the roll open. I know there's a couple more members that would like to add on. I think I need to add on. I was in Labor Committee earlier and missed a few votes. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Runner.
You might want to just announce that this bill's been pulled from the calendar.
Yeah, we have pulled item number 10, SB 871, and made that a 2-year bill. SB 871, Senator Runner, school district employees, is a 2-year bill. All right, it was a good session. We went through a lot today. We're to here. So let's open up the roll on all those bills that are on call, and announce everything and the vote of the chair and the vice chair. The chair's a little punchy at this moment.
We need a motion on SB 8.
Oh, that's right. We had done SB 8, Senator Yee's bill, before there was a quorum. Senator Yee, I don't know if the word admonished is maybe too strong a word, but to really negotiate with the CSU and the community colleges to come up and that we move the bill forward with the understanding that from both sides that they're very close to being able to work out a deal, and that bill will be coming back, Senator Yee said, to this committee, but needed to move it forward, and they are very, very close. All sides agreed to that. You need a motion? Is there a motion on the bill?
Well, it's 2 rules. Yes.
Do pass 2 rules. Please call the roll.
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner?
Aye.
Runner, aye. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Blakesley? No. Blakesley, no. Hancock? Huff? Huff, aye. Lou? Price? Smidian? Vargas?
Aye.
Vargas, aye. You have 5 votes. You need 6.
All right, we'll place that Senator Yee's bill back on call. Our next bill is SB 30, Senator Smidian, kindergarten, age of admission. And that is a bill which will be coming back to committee also, if it is really needed.
The motion is do pass. The chair voting aye. Vice chair no. Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Smidian? It's 6-3.
That bill has 6 votes. We'll place it on call for the absent member.
SB 240, Rubio. Do pass to rules. Lowenthal?
The vote is?
Oh, sorry, vote is 1-1. Lowenthal? Runner?
No.
Runner, no. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Blakesley? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff? Aye. Huff, aye. Lou? Price? It's 4-2.
Bill,
I'm sorry. Blakesley, aye.
the bill has 5 votes. We'll place that back on call for the absent members.
SB 266, Denton, it's hold in committee. SB 355, Huff. The vote is 3-2, and the motion is due pass. Lowenthal? Runner voted aye. Sorry, didn't say that. Alquist? Lou? Price? Smidian? Still 3-2.
The bill has 3 votes. We'll place it back on call. I would like to announce, that if members go, that any bill that fails will be granted reconsideration.
SB 509, Price. The motion is due pass. Chair voting aye. Vice Chair aye. Huff? Huff, aye. Smidian? It's 9-0.
Bill has 9 votes. We'll place it on call for the absent member.
SB 745, Hernandez. The motion is due pass. The chair voting aye. Vice Chair no. Blakesley? No. Blakesley, no. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. Price? Smidian? 5-3.
Bill has 5 votes. We'll place it on call for the absent member.
And it's just Smidian on that one.
And I'm going to remain here for another 5 minutes for the absent members. I believe is Senator Smidian. We need Senator Smidian to come back. He has not voted on many of these bills.
And it's on the consent calendar. It's just Smidian.
And on the consent calendar also.
Okay. He's the only one.
So we're just going to wait. I'll wait here for the absent members.
Actually, it was very, very informative.
Very good job again.
This one was a difficult thing. I know this is just imagine, some people are in anger management. You're in patient stream.
I tried to continue to
You're doing a job. You're doing great. You're doing great. I mean, I think you did tremendous thought. You're doing great. I'm going to say, well, thanks for the
Is there big issues?
And I will tell you, really, this is a time you don't get each of the cells
Yeah.
And I know you want to get so I think these are
Rubio. I don't know. I mean, I would say no to yes.
Oh, he has to open the room.
We're going to open up the roll. Let's start with SB 240, Senator Rubio's bill. Present vote is 5-2. Chair voting aye. Vice Chair voting no. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the chair not voting. Chair not voting. I'm not voting on the Rubio bill, no.
Right. Runner?
Runner, no to aye.
No to aye. Slew? Price?
Bill has 6 votes. The bill has 6 votes sufficient for passage. The bill is out.
Senator Lowenthal?
Yes.
If the roll is still open, I would like to add on and support Senator Yee's bill.
Certainly.
When you're ready to open
Let's open up the roll one more time. We're going to start with Senator. We're going to go through the roll one more time. We said Senator Yee.
SB 8, Senator Yee, do pass to rules. Hancock?
Yeah, I am voting aye, but because I understand per the chair that there's going to be considerable
Absolutely.
discussion and they have to reach a
Hancock, aye. Lou? Price? Price, aye. Semidian? 7-1.
Bill has 7 votes. That bill is out. We're going to go quickly right through it and end it.
Okay, SB 30, Semidian, do pass. Semidian? You have 6 votes.
Bill has 6 votes. That bill is out.
SB 355, Huff, do pass. Lowenthal? Alquist? Lou? Price? Semidian?
That bill fails. Reconsideration is granted.
SB 509, Price. Motion is to pass. Semidian? You have 9 votes.
Bill has 9 votes. That bill is out.
SB 745, Hernandez, do pass. Price? Aye. Price, aye. Semidian? 6-3.
Bill has 6 votes. That bill is out.
SR 16, be adopted. Semidian? 9-0.
Bill has 9 votes. That bill is out.
And the consent calendar, SB 423, do pass. SB 821, do pass as amended. Semidian, you have 9 votes.
Consent calendar is passed.
Thank you.
This committee is adjourned.